graciously and wholeheartedly embraced and has helped to enhance integrity in leadership through various trainings. Secondly, we have commissioned the Zero Tolerance to Corruption Policy Steering Committee, whose role is to oversee the effective implementation of this policy. Thirdly, we have commissioned the integrity focal persons from ministries, departments, and agencies. Lastly, we have rolled out 25 episodes of anti-corruption dramas in English and other local languages that include Lugbara, Nyakarimajong, Luganda, Luo, Lumasaba, Ateso, Runyachitara, and Lusoga. Your Excellency, these dramas are aimed at encouraging public participation in fighting corruption and monitoring service delivery. These are currently being aired on 13 radio stations across the country. Also, the dramas are aimed at inculcating a right set skill values that are lifelong amongst our youth, and these values include integrity, hard work, transparency, and accountability. Your Excellency, this has been done with the support of the GIZ, to whom we are very grateful. Today, Uganda joins the rest of the world, as she has done for many years, to commemorate this year's Anti-Corruption Day under the theme Promoting Active Citizen Participation in Social Accountability. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the relevance of the 2021 anti-corruption campaign is to increase citizens' awareness about their responsibilities, to empower them in their right to access public information for effective monitoring of service delivery, and to provide information on government's efforts in fighting corruption. It is our desired goal to see all citizens of Uganda make the transition from being mere spectators and social commenters to the acts of corruption, and to take on a more active role of collaborating with the various anti-corruption agencies in eliminating graft. Indeed, the mobilization of citizens to combat crime and vices affecting society has proven to be successful whenever employed by the government through your guidance and able leadership, Your Excellency. We draw lessons from the HIV campaign and the Ebola and now the COVID pandemic. Therefore, this year's theme captures the adoption of a proven and successful strategy. Your Excellency, on behalf of the various government agencies tasked with fighting corruption, I take this opportunity to thank you and your government for the efforts you have put in place to combat corruption in Uganda. Some of these efforts include the strategic placement of the fight against corruption at the heart of government agenda, but also the establishment of legal and institutional framework for the fight against corruption. I would also like to thank and congratulate my colleagues from the various anti-corruption agencies, like they were mentioned, the civil society organizations, some of which include Kick Corruption out of Uganda in Kigezi, the Midwestern Region Anti-Corruption Coalition, TESO Anti-Corruption Coalition, the Apache Anti-Corruption Coalition, and the Uganda Youth Forum, among others, the private sector and the entire citizenry for the achievements and the synergy registered so far in the fight against corruption. Fellow citizens, the task ahead of us in this fight is without doubt a momentous one and is constantly evolving into new and sophisticated forms. However, it is our conviction that we are up to the task and that total commitment from all stakeholders working together will enable us to combat and eliminate corruption decisively and significantly. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for joining us today, and we wish you all a successful commemoration of the International Anti-Corruption Day 2021. For God and my country.
Your Excellency and distinguished guests, corruption was recognized even during the Bible times. And when you look at Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 18 to 20, the Bible says, you shall not pervert justice. You shall not show partiality. You shall not accept a bribe. Your Excellency, flipping through the Quran recently, I recognized that corruption was also talked about in the Quran and referred to as rishwa, which means bribery. And the Quran preaches against corruption in the form of bribery. Your Excellency, this Kisanja, you said, this Kisanja, Katonda Jali. Indeed, as the inspectorate, we have seen the hand of God in this Kisanja. We have seen the hand of God in our work. And it has been demonstrated even through the leadership you have put in place. We have got Honorable IGG Betty Kamya Turomwe, who has served in this country in different capacities. She was a former Minister for Lands, Housing and Urban Development, and she held that position for 3 years. She was Minister for KCCA and Metropolitan Affairs, and she served passionately. We have seen through her leadership, Your Excellency, that she is also not a joking subject. It gives us reference to Kisanja, hakuna mchezo. And we believe that the fight against corruption in this country is not a joking subject. It is now my single honor and privilege to invite Honorable Betty Kamya, the IGG, to make her remarks on the strategy to eliminate corruption in this country. Honorable IGG, you're welcome to make your remarks.
Not even read. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, I seek leave to speak without my mask because of a condition that undermines my speech when I do. Thankfully, I am distances away from the nearest person. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Your Excellency the Vice President, my Lord, the Chief Justice, Honorable Ministers and Ministers of State, Heads of Diplomatic Missions, Honorable Members of Parliament, religious leaders, Head of Public Service, fellow heads of anti-corruption agencies with whom we are co-hosting this event, permanent secretaries, Chief of Defense Forces, Inspector General of Police, Director of Public Prosecution. In the interest of time, kindly allow me to use our Ugandan culture of all protocol observed. Your Excellency, first, I bring apologies from the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who has asked me to convey her apologies for not being here today because she has to attend to Parliament. But first of all, I wish to thank you very much, Your Excellency, for honoring our invitation to officiate at the International Anti-Corruption Day of 2021. I thank you too, our honorable guests, for honoring our invitation to be here today. We don't take any of you for granted. Your Excellency, on behalf of my colleagues, the Deputy Inspectors General of Government, Mrs. Anne Muheire, and Dr. Patricia Okiria, and on my own behalf, since this is our first public engagement, I wish to thank you publicly very much for honoring us with your vote of confidence by appointing us Inspector General of Government and Deputy Inspectors General of Government. Indeed, we are humbled, and talking among ourselves, we pledged to honor you too by giving this assignment our very best, working with the team we found in place and other actors in this calling of fighting to eliminate corruption in Uganda. I want to thank Deputy Inspector of Government, Dr. Patricia, for introducing our guests, and Deputy Inspector of Government, Mrs. Muheire, for her opening remarks, which have given a background to this day, and so I will just build on what they said. Your Excellency, we acknowledge your leadership and commitment in the war against corruption, all the way from the trenches of Ruwero, when you made elimination of corruption point number 7 in the NRM 10-point program. Under your leadership, the state of Uganda has established legal and administrative framework necessary for fighting corruption. And for the benefit of those who may not know it, some are creatures of the Constitution, like the 3 arms of government, the Inspectorate of Government, Office of the Auditor General, CID, and Office of Director of Public Prosecutions. And some are creatures of statutory action. We have many acts of parliament intended to support the war against corruption. And Your Excellency, you even went the extra mile to complement the Constitution and statutory creatures with executive action and created the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity in the Office of the President, the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, and the Zero Tolerance Policy, Zero Tolerance to Corruption Policy. Each of the above institutions are fairly well staffed and perform their respective functions, and I know that each one produces annual voluminous reports of their performance, which they submit to their respective supervising organs. The Inspectorate of Government, which I represent now, submits its report to Parliament and gives a copy to you twice a year as required by law. However, in summary, I'll give you a report of our status for the period 2019 to 2021. We have in our system today 5,000 plus active cases of corruption reported by whistleblowers, all valued above 500 billion shillings. This includes the locust money, 24 billion, COVID-19 money, 59 billion, the Innovation Fund of former Ministry of Science and Technology, 78 billion, renovation of Entebbe Airport, 17 billion, SAGE money involving ghost elderly people, 49 billion, Ministry of Agriculture, 9 billion, and mismanagement of Entebbe International Airport, which is a case you investigated yourself and to send to the IG for prosecution, and numerous other cases from local governments, majorly about violating procurement processes leading to award of contracts to undeserving applicants at exorbitant prices. These cases are all at different levels of management between investigation, prosecution, and even appeals in courts of law. In just the 2 months that we have been in office, we have already received over 350 cases from whistleblowers. Your Excellency, currently the IG has 395 cases of corruption in courts at different levels of court processes, including appeals. We have secured 85 convictions, including the now famous Kazinda conviction, and 35 acquittals in the past 2 years, which incidentally were lockdown years with slowed activity in court. We have recovered in the past 2 years 19 billion through court orders, out-of-court settlements, and plea bargains. We have also caused the dismissal from their jobs 165 public officials and sent 294 to various commissions for disciplinary action. 144 officials have been warned, and under the leadership code, Your Excellency, 22,000 public officers and leaders have declared their assets. Unfortunately, over 120 have not yet declared their assets as required by law, but there are technical issues on timing that we are trying to sort out with the Attorney General. Your Excellency, this report and all the reports of other anti-corruption agencies put together are just a drop in the ocean compared to the grand, massive corruption and abuse of office and authority that is going on in Uganda, but do not even get detected because corruption has become almost a way of life in Uganda. Indeed, Your Excellency and our honored guests, studies made by several international and local monitoring agencies, such as the World Governance Index, Africa Governance Index, United States Think Tank for Peace, Transparency International, Corruption Perception Index, Afrobarometer, and others, they have consistently listed Uganda among countries with the highest levels of corruption. In the last 5 years, studies were made on the Corruption Perception Index between 2016 and 2020. And Your Excellency, sadly, out of a scale of 1 to 100, Uganda has been scoring an average of 25, 27, and 28%. And when they're ranking 180 countries, Uganda has been ranked in the range of 140 to 140, 150 out of 180 countries. For the larger audience listening to me out there, to understand this, I want you to imagine your child who goes to school and every year for 5 years from P1 to P7 brings home a report with a score of 26, 27% in every subject every year and is positioned number 150 out of 180 students. It would be heartbreaking for the parent, and that's how we should feel, and that's why we commemorate the International Anti-Corruption Day to reflect on corruption issues in our countries. Based on that, Your Excellency, with support from GIZ, the Inspectorate of Government undertook a study to establish the estimated cost of corruption in Uganda. And this was our findings, Your Excellency. If you look on page 6 in a document before you, this study estimated that Uganda loses anything up to 10 trillion shillings per year from avoiding taxation, user fees in public utilities, health care and education issues, security provision, that is police, procurement and budgeting, and others. Through those, Uganda could be losing up to 10 trillion shillings a year. And when you put in absenteeism from work in public sector and environmental degradation, it could easily go up to 20 trillion per year. Your Excellency, if we could just save that money, that 10 trillion per year, and using the parish model, divide it among the estimated 10,000 parishes of Uganda, each parish could easily receive an extra 1 billion per year. And I'm here asking everybody to shrink into yourself and go back to your parish and think what 1 billion shillings per year would do to your parish. And I've gone back to coach Your Excellency, Bugona Parish, and I'm thinking, if in year 1, Bugona Parish could have government inject 1 billion shillings in Bugona Parish Sacco, everybody would find employment to do their farms, to build their businesses, to improve their welfare, and to send their children to school. And if in year 2, 1 billion was used to buy laptops for each student from P1 up to university and tertiary institution, every student in Bugona Parish would have a laptop, and this would close the gaps between those who can study online and those who can't study online, and those who have access to the World Wide Web with so much information, and those who do not have access to that. And if in year 3, we used our billion to extend electricity to Bugona Parish in Ikochi, and in year 4, piped water, and in year 5, provide a well-equipped health facility, complete with a resident doctor's resident, Bugona Parish would be transformed in 5 years. And all parishes of Uganda could be transformed in 5 years. Your Excellency, this transformation is achievable, but we must first save 10 trillion shillings that we lose to corruption every year. Your Excellency, this calls for stepping up the war against corruption by going back to the war room to review the strategy. And one of the things that we need to consider is whether, after all this effort, after all this resource, the designated warriors against corruption, and I mean us, the elite, employed in anti-corruption agencies, even non-state actors in civil society, even the donors, are we ideologically competent to fight the war? Do we feel, let alone understand, the pain of corruption? Is it possible for us to own the war when we have nothing to lose? Is it really our war? As the elite who discuss corruption in our air-conditioned boardroom, 5-star hotels, chauffeur-driven top-of-the-range vehicles with our 7-figure salaries and guaranteed healthcare insurance policies for ourselves and our families, is it our war? Do we know about the pain of corruption that we should pour our hearts into the war? We are merely paid, you hate to use this word, but that's what it means. When you are paid to fight a war, then you are a mercenary. Because whether we lose the war or we don't lose it, like we've done all these years, we still get paid. Some of us are even practitioners and beneficiaries of corruption, using the very offices we occupy to fight corruption. So whose war is it? In Uganda they say, ani nanyini mufu, who is the bereaved, whom we should console and help with funeral arrangements. Ani nanyini mufu. Whose war was the war against apartheid and slavery. Many Europeans, Your Excellency, supported and participated passionately in the war against apartheid and slavery, but it was not their war because they had options in case they lost the war. None of us in this tent and air-conditioned government or civil society officers would die because there's no medicine in Mulago Hospital, because we have health insurance and options of even going abroad for medical treatment, whether we lose the war on corruption or not. That person who will die because there's no medicine in Mulago, or bury a loved one because there's no medicine in Mulago, and she or he has no option, is the owner of this war and must be recruited to be the foot soldier. Your Excellency, this is the new strategy at the Inspectorate of Government, to recruit all ordinary Ugandans into the war against corruption through civic education and mindset change. This is the prevention strategy that we promised you when you saw us in and sent us away to go and take office. We are going to rebrand the war from being the war of only President Museveni, who goes around the country condemning corruption, or the IGG, or Parliament, or State House Anti-Corruption Unit, to become the citizens' war against corruption, thereby creating citizen ownership. Your Excellency, when people own something, they can even constitute themselves into a mob and even lynch to defend it. If you want to know what I mean, try knocking a border, not Excellency, because he won't do that. But you people looking at me and listening to me here, colleagues in the tent, honorable guests in the tent, if you want to know what ownership means, try knocking a border rider, and within minutes, the border, all of them in the vicinity will congregate and surround you, whether they know him or not, whether he was right or wrong, and if you are lucky, they can even lynch you, because to them, you mess with one of them, you are messing with all of them, because saving border is their war. Your Excellency, when a thief is caught stealing a chicken in a village, the villagers constitute themselves into a court and serve mob justice because they associate with the loss of a chicken. But when they hear that their village mate or tribesman was arrested for stealing through corruption 1 billion shillings, they will riot and demand the release of their corrupt kinsman because it is government money, not theirs. Besides, they argue he helps them a lot with personal and community issues such as churches, and I want to thank Bishop Ruere for your prayer. Thank you very much. Because the people in the villages do not own the laws associated with corruption. This is the mindset change that the new leadership at the IG wishes to introduce for the population of Uganda to own and personalize the cost and the pain of corruption. Then they will all come out as a mob to fight corruption. Your Excellency, these are our future plans. 1, like I've said, we intend to empower the masses with knowledge about the cost, the pain of corruption, and the opportunity cost, as I did with my parish of Bugwana Kochi. We intend to continue receiving whistleblower tips investigate, prosecute, and recover loot. We intend to promote the prevention and cure strategy. We also intend, Your Excellency, to unmask corruption and give it a face, like you did when you're fighting the war against AIDS and of COVID. You gave them a face and were able to contain the war. We shall give corruption a face so that everybody can recognize it. We shall take the face of corruption to every classroom, to every living room, to every place of worship, to every place of entertainment, and to every bedroom, so that everybody can recognize corruption. Then we shall mobilize the people to fight a face they understand. The face of corruption, Your Excellency, and our honored guests, is that lifestyle which is not commensurate with a person's legitimate source of income. That expensive car, that mansion, those family holidays that are abroad, those expensive schools abroad where you take your children, which are not commensurate with your salary or your legitimate sources of income, is the face of corruption. We want everybody to recognize it. Your Excellency, we even want children to learn to be inquisitive and ask their parents whether their jobs pay the salaries to afford the lifestyle and the comforts they take for granted. We want adults and children to start being embarrassed and ashamed of illicit unexplained wealth. We want everybody to be their brothers and their sisters' keeper. The masses will be empowered to view with suspicion any abrupt display of unexplained wealth and report them to the IG or any relevant authority. This is going to be a protracted war, Your Excellency, that will require a good strategy and special funding. We pray, sir, that you direct the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to make special provision for this activity on top of the budget ceiling for the financial year 2022 and 2023. For us, we are ready to discuss our proposal with him. Your Excellency, all political and non-political leaders who draw salaries from the Consolidated Fund are required under the Leadership Code Act to declare their wealth to the IGG, and the IGG is required to verify such declarations. Of course, false declarations have repercussions under the law. We have already resolved to begin this process and to begin with the low-hanging fruits ASAP this financial year, and we said the IG will begin lead by example, so we are beginning to verify the declarations of the top leadership of Inspectorate of Government, beginning with myself. Your Excellency, we shall also verify the declarations of accounting officers of the 53 central government votes, and also the principal accountants of all ministries and accounting officers of MDAs and local governments with the biggest budgets. We intend to begin that this financial year. Your Excellency, then there is something called the untouchables. In order to gain public trust and confidence, the public is crying about untouchables. So-called. The public wants to see some big heads roll, and with your support, Your Excellency, I assure you that on my desk are investigations which are likely to lead to heads to roll. The people and the media, since we took office, have asked us, how will you deal with the untouchables? And I always say, the president who gave us this job wants it done. It is his commitment to the people through his manifesto, the president is so fed up with corruption, he will not protect anybody because the president contract is with the people of Uganda. This has been my answer, sir, and I'm saying it publicly in your presence so that the press and the people don't ask me again. Your Excellency, we would like to propose that government mainstreams the war to eliminate corruption in all government programs. We propose to government to mainstream the war to eliminate corruption in all government activities, in schools, in education institutions. We pray that you direct that all government programs that bring people together should have a component of civic education against corruption embedded in every agenda. This will require printing of simplified material which will be distributed to all RDCs through the Ministry of the Presidency, local councillors, inter-religious council, and the media to help them communicate a standardized message to the people. This will also require a special budget. Your Excellency, one of the serious challenges we face is to successfully prosecute a corrupt suspect. Because by nature, corruption deals are always under the table and very difficult to prove in court where the judge requires evidence beyond reasonable doubt. So many corrupt people don't only get acquitted, but many times with costs to government. Yet everybody knows that they are corrupt. And the public outcry is, catch us some big fish. We are tired of silver fish which you parade in court. Even one judge said, after convicting someone of corruption, one judge is said to have said, I am tired of adjudicating over small fish while big fish are running around scot-free. The truth is that the big fish are very slippery. They can't catch them. They don't sign anywhere. You will never see them receive their loot. They receive their loot through proxies. That is why, Your Excellency, we are now promoting the lifestyle audit campaign. We may fail to prove in court that you took the money through corrupt means, but through your lifestyle, we can trace the money. And this is the lifestyle audit campaign that we are proposing. In this campaign, the onus is on the suspect to prove beyond reasonable doubt to the judge that the wealth he or she acquired while in public office, which is not commensurate with his or her non-income, is legitimate. And this is provided for under the Anti-Corruption Act and the Anti-Money Laundering Act. After your address, sir, the Minister of State for Ethics and Integrity will kindly ask you to officially launch the lifestyle audit campaign. And in this campaign, we'll call the public to say no to corruption, to make a personal commitment not to ask for, accept, or offer a bribe. Every individual in Uganda should make this personal decision. We shall also ask everybody to report anybody who offers, asks for a bribe, or if you know them, to the Inspectorate of Government or any institution or person of relevant authority. We shall also require the public to report to the Inspector General of Government anybody who amasses wealth in a short time and whose known source of income does not match the amassed wealth. We have asked the religious leaders to take the front seat in this war by urging their congregations to say no to corruption, and the media to play their pivotal role in influencing thoughts, behavior, and actions of people and policies of government against corruption. Finally, sir, allow me to make just a few acknowledgments. First, I wish to acknowledge the First Lady and Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Museveni, for accepting the responsibility of being the national champion for the Ambassadors of Integrity and executing it with distinction. I also wish to thank the Right Honourable Speaker and entire Parliament for their support. I would like to also to thank the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and our own Minister of State for Ethics and Integrity, Honorable Lily Rose Akello, for coordinating all the state anti-corruption actors under the interagency forum and for her support in the Cabinet and in Parliament. I wish to acknowledge our international development partners who have walked this journey with us and promise to continue to do so. In particular, I wish to mention Denmark, Germany, UK, and USA, and the EU in general. I wish to recognize Bishop Ruere for executing his duty as chairman of Zero Tolerance Policy to Corruption Steering Committee and the Interreligious Council of Uganda in general for adopting a resolution last week to join government in fighting corruption. And sir, they resolved that last weekend, all the mosques on Friday and all the Seventh-day Adventist churches on Saturday and all churches on Friday, this weekend, they all preached against corruption. We'd like to thank them. It was overwhelming. I wish to acknowledge the media owners for their support too through their National Broadcasters Association led by Mr. Ken Karisa. Their support has been overwhelming as well. Our colleagues, the anti-corruption agencies with whom we have organized this event, I want to thank you very much for your cooperation, and the National Organizing Committee, NOC, under the Ministry of the Presidency for your invaluable time and support. Last but not least, I would like to recognize the staff of the Inspectorate of Government who have put their best foot and spirit forward. Your Excellency and dear guests, I thank you very much for your attention, and I say all this for God and my country. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, being my first time to be Director of Ceremonies, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the IGG for ably bringing up the strategy to fight against corruption. While I was making a few remarks and recognizing our distinguished guests, I forgot to mention one of the most significant combatants in the fight against corruption, and that is the Leadership Code Tribunal. I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the presence of Dr. Roslyn Kargonjo Segawa, the chairperson of the Leadership Code Tribunal, together with her deputy, Honorable Asuman Jinji. Your Excellency, in the interest of time following the program, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Mr. Benson Turamwe, the Executive Director, PPDA, who will be making a joint statement on behalf of the anti-corruption agencies. Mr. Turamwe has grown in ranks since 2004, from manager to director and now executive director, PPDA. He has been at the helm of the current reforms in public procurement to promote efficiency, transparency, and accountability and value for money. It is now my single honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Benson Turamwe to make his remarks at this occasion. Mr. Turamwe, you're welcome.
Can I move this, please? Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Her Excellency, the Vice President, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, the Honorable Ministers, heads of diplomatic missions, the IGG, and the heads of anti-corruption agencies, religious leaders, government officials, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, I'm here to pledge and present the commitment from the anti-corruption institutions in the fight against corruption in Uganda, following the IGG presentation. The focus for this commitment, Your Excellency, is put on promoting active citizen participation for demanding social accountability. This statement on the way to eliminate corruption by the state anti-corruption agencies that were mentioned, I don't want to repeat them, that they were mentioned and introduced by the Director of Ceremonies, the Deputy IGG, Dr. Patricia Achano Clear. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda and Commander of the Armed Forces, I therefore have the honor and privilege to present this statement on behalf of the anti-corruption institutions today, 9th December 2021, as we commemorate the International Anti-Corruption Day. The state anti-corruption agencies acknowledge the corruption and maladministration that have continued to pose a great threat to our country, with far-reaching effects on the national development goal, which is increasing household income and improving the quality of life of Ugandans. Your Excellency, corruption is destructive service delivery and stands out as the primary enemy to all efforts towards realization of the national vision of a transformed Uganda society from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years, as approved by Cabinet in 2007. Your Excellency, there was a national integrity survey that was conducted in 2019 by the accountability sector under the stewardship of the Inspectorate of Government, with support from the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, which revealed that corruption in Uganda was increasing. This survey established that the corruption was largely associated with greed, poor monitoring and supervision by public officials of public projects, and failure to take concrete action on reported cases of poor service delivery, among others. Cognizant of the immense impact corruption poses on the national development agenda, your government, through NRM Manifesto 2021-2026, pledged to invest more in the investigative, accountability, and prosecution agencies so that corruption cases are promptly investigated, prosecuted, and left to court for adjudication. The manifesto also underscores the enhanced use of ICT to minimize human-to-human interface in the delivery of services as to reduce corruption. Your Excellency, most of the highlights were mentioned by the IGG in terms of the achievements of state anti-corruption agencies, but you allow me mention a few. That the Inspectorate of Government, and these highlights actually as of December 2020, from December 2020 to date. Under the Inspectorate of Government, led by Honorable Betty Kamya, 879 investigations were conducted that resulted in 42 prosecutions. As a result, 3.1 billion shillings was recovered from corruptly acquired assets. 19 public officials were convicted, and 520 public officers were forwarded to relevant authorities for administrative action. Your Excellency, under promoting integrity in public service and following the launch of the Ambassadors of Integrity campaign by the First Lady, Honorable Mama Janet Kataha Museveni, the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity, in partnership with anti-corruption agencies, trained 545 people to promote integrity and build the leadership potential in the personal and professional life. These participants included chief executives and senior public officials of government agencies. In terms of this strategy of involving citizens to eliminate corruption, the Inspectorate of Government trained 11,027 community monitoring groups all over the country to monitor and report abuses and mismanagement of government projects to the IG. These trained monitors were able to register 269 grievances related to project implementation, which were resolved. Your Excellency, we have also the second important organ, which is the Office of the Auditor General, in this fight, and they have conducted 2,469 financial audits, 2 value for money audits, 4 engineering audits, 31 special audits, and 5 IT audits. They also did 3 compliance audits in thematic areas, and the reports are there presented to Parliament. Office of the Auditor General has also developed citizens feedback platform that will enable citizens direct reporting of corrupt activities taking place in MDs and local governments. Your Excellency, under Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, the amendment of the Act, and we thank you, Your Excellency, for assenting to the amendment, which was done in June 2021, and we look forward to an effective and corrupt-free procurement system in coming years, because the amendment has created a situation of efficiency parameters and also strengthened the sanctions for errant and corrupt officials in public procurement processes. In the same, further, Your Excellency, in line with NRM Manifesto commitment to minimize human-to-human contact in the delivery services, the PPDA commenced on the electronic government procurement system, which will strengthen transparency, efficiency, competition, and accountability, and minimize tendencies of corruption in procurement. The PPDA has also put in place a contract monitoring system that will be rolled over across the country in January 2022, working with the community representatives to report and monitor and report real-time on mismanagement of government projects. This will be managed using phones, smartphones. Your Excellency, we have also the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution in this collaboration, led by Lady Justice Jane Obodo. And since December 2020, this office has recovered 384 million and 384 million shillings and $34,000 by pre-bargain approach. They have also secured a forfeiture order for anti-malaria drugs valued at 28 million. These were classified government branded drugs that were found in some pharmacies, and these drugs, after getting this order, were submitted to Kawempe, were forwarded to Kawempe National Referral Hospital for use. Further, amount of 134 million shillings was paid in fines and sentences by corrupt government officials that were prosecuted. Your Excellency, we have your own State House Anti-Corruption Unit that we collaborate and we are worked with in this statement. They have conclusively investigated over 10,000 complaints that have a financial worth of 287 billion. And 29 billion has been recovered. 331 accused persons were arraigned to court, and 40 of these were convicted. Your Excellency, you requested to share the achievements of this office in the fight against corruption. And we request they have produced performance reports for 3 years. We request that you authorize this report to be shared by public, and copies are even here for sharing with people who are present in this forum. Your Excellency, lastly, we have the leadership, the second but last, we have the Financial Intelligence Authority in its effort to combat money laundering and terrorism financing, conducted analysis of financial reports, and as a result, 94 financial intelligence reports were disseminated to law enforcement agencies for investigation and prosecution. Lastly, Your Excellency, we have the Leadership Court Tribunal, which was established in July 2020, and they have embarked on their mandate. Adjudication, where the tribunal establishes processes, systems, and controls as a nascent institution. This has adequately prepared the tribunal for its second phase of adjudication, and 6 cases have been received from Inspectorate of Government for management. But more importantly, this tribunal has put in place processes, systems, and controls by developing Leadership Court Tribunal practices and procedures, rules, statutory instrument number 53 of 2021, and other manuals and policies. Your Excellency, some challenges were mentioned, but they were mentioned by the IGG. They rotate on funding these anti-corruption agencies, staffing, and also having specialized equipment to detect and help in investigations and audits. Allow me now lastly to read the joint statement of commitment by these anti-corruption state agencies. Your Excellency, here is the statement. We commit to undertake the following key interventions to invigorate the war against the elimination of corruption, and we are giving ourselves 1 year to come and make accountability when we are making the next Anti-Corruption International celebration. 1, scale up efforts in the enforcement of the full provisions of the anti-corruption laws that will increase detection of corruption and maladministration, investigations, pre- and post-audit of corruption cases. B, increase recovery of stolen public funds by way of refund, settlement, compensation, orders, and fine. C, severe punishment of all persons involved in corrupt practices and economic sabotage. Number 2 of the commitment, Your Excellency, is deepen our efforts toward the prevention of corruption. And I think this may not talk much about it because the Honorable Betkamia talked about it. Engaging citizens, lifestyle audits, mainstreaming ethics and integrity in public institutions, leveraging technology, that is the way to go. We have to use ICT in promoting transparency and sharing information. And also, we are going to engage the Prime Minister in assessing government agencies. Your Excellency, lastly, we want to strengthen the partnership and collaboration with non-state actors, religious institutions, culture, and civil society organizations to create a strong social base that will enable the country to get out of profound social crisis of eroded moral values, which is the main cause of corruption. We also want to empower and mobilize the citizens of Uganda, as Honorable Beth Kamya said. We acknowledge, Your Excellency, your personal and unfettered support to the anti-corruption struggle as well documented, and it has borne fruits on many fronts. We thank the NRM government for establishing the legislative, institutional, and administrative structures. We thank the development partners that Honorable Kamya talked about, and civil society organizations, and also the public for reporting cases, and the media, and many cases have been picked from the media. I thank Your Excellency for God and my country. I sign Benson Turamye, Executive Director, PPDA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benson Turamye, Executive Director, PPDA, for indeed demonstrating that the fight against corruption needs a concerted effort by all the anti-corruption agencies. Your Excellency and distinguished guests, allow me to take this opportunity to invite Nkaja Janice from King's College, Budo. Nkaja was a winner in the speech category of the National Students Anti-Corruption Challenge 2021, organized by the National Debate Council of Uganda in partnership with the Inspectorate of Government and the anti-corruption agencies under the support of GIZ. Nkaja, you have 3 minutes to make that speech, and thereafter we will have Diplok Segawa, who will use 3 minutes to make a performance, just to entertain us. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Your Excellency the President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a good afternoon. I am Nkaja Janice, a young political activist whose heart aches for her nation. And lately I've been trying to write a book that has proven to drive me crazy, a book that locked me up in my mind and threw the keys to the back of my cold, flustered heart. For with every ink drop that befalls the white smooth pages, I can only imagine the results of my traces. But I must warn you, my book might blind or grant you sight. It might belittle or give you strength, because my book has a story to tell. This book is about my nation, Uganda. A nation that has seen great wars, a nation that has nurtured great warriors. But my nation faces an enemy like no other before. This nation of mine, still weak and feeble, is faced with an enemy that has no moral constraint. An enemy that shows no mercy to neither man nor woman, young or old, sick or strong. This enemy devours all. My nation calls it corruption. A shadow that casts dirt on my leaders, a dishonest policy that has broken my country's financial agility, strength, and hope. Corruption is paid by the poor, Pope Francis once said. Where educational structures are broken down in a systematic chain, my teachers are not paid, my classrooms are nothing more than just a cowshed equivalent. My peers losing hope for an education no longer seems like the key to success. Dropout levels hitting the bar limit. Futures put on a stop hold just because a single entity let their greed rule their thoughts. Health is wealth, they say. But what kind of wealth is manifesting itself with the rampant immortality rates, overtaxed health services, and under-equipped health facilities? My nation screams from the core of her lungs because she can't take it anymore. Something has to be done, and it has to be done now. It's high time young people stood up to fight for what's right, stood at the front lines to flush out this vice. Do not be deceived by our ages, for we have so much to offer to this struggle. Our experiences have catapulted our growth, and we understand this vice all too well. Kurt Cohen once said, "It's the duty of the youth to challenge corruption," and indeed, her point is valid. Young people all over the world are signing petitions, pushing governments to steer towards clear waters. Whistleblowers to corruption among the youth have risen, for now awareness is but a basic trait. We are ready to march on the streets, raise our voices for a safer future for you and I. I want a happy ending to my book, where humanity stands to fight for what's right and society agrees to stand with all its might to end this vice. Because for a country to be great, its ethics are bound to much greater. For God and my country. Thank you.
Jealousy
Thank you very much, Diplok Segawa, for that energizing presentation. And thank you very much, Nkaja Janice, for that speech, which brings out real touchy issues about corruption. The effects of corruption and its impact was ably and comprehensively brought out in that speech. Without wasting much time, Your Excellency, allow me to take this opportunity to invite the Minister of State for Ethics and Integrity, Honorable Rose Lily Akello. Honorable Rose Lily Akello is a politician and a social worker representing Karenga as a District Woman Member of Parliament. It is my single honor and privilege to invite her to make her remarks, and she will invite our chief guest to make his address and launch the National Lifestyle Audit. Honorable Minister, you're welcome to make your remarks and invite His Excellency the President. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Our Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Alupo Jessica Rose Epel, His Lordship the Chief Justice, Honorable Ministers and Ministers of State, Heads of Diplomatic Missions, Honorable Members of Parliament, religious leaders, heads of anti-corruption agencies, permanent secretaries, Chief of Defense Forces, Inspector General of Police, Commissioner General Prison Service, Director Public Prosecutions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, we are highly honored to be with you to commemorate the International Anti-Corruption Day 2021. We thank the Almighty God for this moment. We thank you for your visionary leadership and being at the forefront of fighting corruption. Your Excellency, before you here today are dedicated senior government officials and leaders from the non-state actors who are at the forefront of fighting corruption and rebuilding ethics and integrity in this country. Allow me, Your Excellency, to thank these distinguished leaders for their dedication and commitment to rebuilding morals, values, and fighting corruption that has infiltrated sectors of our country. Your Excellency, for proper recognition, allow me to introduce the heads of the anti-corruption agencies who are working together with the Directorate of Ethics and Integrity, the Inspector General of Government and our deputies, the Auditor General, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Director of Criminal Investigations Directorate, the Head State House Anti-Corruption Unit, the Chairperson Leadership Court Tribunal, the Registrar Anti-Corruption Division Courts of Judicature, the Executive Director Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, the Commissioner General Uganda Revenue Authority, the Accountant General Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, the Director General Internal Security Organization, the Chairperson National Steering Committee for Implementation of Zero Tolerance to Corruption Policy, Bishop Joshua Luere. Your Excellency, in December 2019, here at Kololo Independence Grounds, you launched the Zero Tolerance to Corruption Policy. During the swearing-in of Cabinet Ministers in June this year, Your Excellency, you employed all leaders to fight corruption head-on. Specifically, you assigned us 5 tasks, namely coercion, fighting corruption, regional integration,
patriotism, and effective service delivery to the citizens of Uganda. In view of this directive, Your Excellency, the anti-corruption agencies commenced the implementation of the zero tolerance to corruption policy, which calls, among other things, strengthening partnerships and cohesion among all stakeholders for effective war against corruption. Your Excellency, these stakeholders, who are all represented here today, include government anti-corruption agencies, religious and faith organizations, cultural institutions, civil society organizations, development partners, the private sector, and the media. The policy also seeks to make ethics and integrity a cross-cutting issue to be mainstreamed in all ministries, departments, agencies, and local governments. And to operationalize this policy provision, we have now instituted integrity focal persons in all ministries, departments, and agencies. Your Excellency, allow me to thank the First Lady, Mama Janet Katam Museveni, who is our champion of ambassadors for integrity, for commissioning the integrity focal persons to ensure effective implementation of the policy. A national steering committee led by Bishop Joshua Luere was established. Your Excellency, I am happy to report to you that this steering committee has developed a strategic intervention of empowering the citizens to monitor service delivery and to demand for better service delivery from government. This roadmap provides guidelines of how citizens can actively participate in the war against corruption, right from the village level to the national level. Your Excellency, a people's protracted war against corruption has been declared. Our foot soldiers in the war against corruption are now fully mobilized, and I am happy to report that there is cohesion among all stakeholders, such as government institutions, the religious and faith-based organizations, cultural institutions, civil society, private sector, media, and all citizens of this country. This is in line with the theme for this year's anti-corruption campaign of promoting active citizen participation in social accountability. Your Excellency, on behalf of all the patriots in the war against corruption, I would like to pledge our total commitment and dedication towards this noble cause. And I thank you, Your Excellency, for your visionary leadership. Your Excellency, allow me to thank everybody who has come today to commemorate this day. Your Excellency, it is now my honor and privilege to invite you to address the nation for God and my country.
Her Excellency the Vice President, His Lordship the Chief Justice, the Honorable Ministers, the IGG, and all the other anti-corruption agencies, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, and other invitees here. Right from the beginning, the NRM was very clear about the problem of corruption. This is because some of us who have been lucky to live for a long time had seen this corruption even in the colonial times. At that time, the people of Uganda had no power. No power at all. The power was with the colonial administration. The chiefs they appointed, and the other officials appointed by the colonial system. The people had no power to elect leaders. Therefore, in the 1950s, 1960s, the corruption was mainly concentrated with the chiefs, the policemen, the veterinary officers, the medical, the staff in the medical, and the teachers, school teachers. These were the ones who were taking money, taking bribes, teachers spoiling schoolgirls in school. These were the corruption. That's how some of us started our anti-corruption crusade that time. We fought. Soon after independence, there was some elections, but of course it was not stable, and it was not grassroots. It was not grassroots based. It was member of parliament, councillor. There was no grassroots democracy. Now, because of that, because we had seen this, we had seen that the disconnection was that the people had no voice. Even after independence, when we had elections in 1962, the elections were for a member of parliament and councillor. I think the councillors were also elected. But this would just go away, and the village would remain alone with no voice. That's why, therefore, when the NRM came on the scene, we insisted that the people must have their voice. Yes, you can have your members of parliament, you can have your councillors, but the people must have their own voice. They must elect their own government at the village, at the parish, at the sub-county. I don't know why you forget and you keep running around. The answers are there. Why did we? There was already a DC. You remember there was a DC, District Commissioner. Why then did we introduce LC5? Because there was already DC. DC could run the district. So why LC5? This is because we didn't trust the DC. We wanted the people to have their own person. Yes, the DC is there representing the president, but let the people have their own person, elected by them. Then we come to the sub-county. Sub-county is a governor chief. There was a Gombora chief, there was the sub-county chief. Why then LOC3 chairperson? Why? Of course, we were aware that we were going to increase costs because we were going to pay the Gombora chief, but also pay the new person called Gombora chief, no, LOC3. And then down in the village, LOC1. The whole government there, the whole lineup, which was never there before. So all this we did, I did this because I knew what was happening in the colonial times. I wanted the people to have their own voice. I think the only mistake we made was to introduce educational qualifications, especially for parliament. You must have A level and so on. That's how we caused some distortion. We should have left the people to elect their own person, whether he can speak Acholi only. Let him come to parliament and say, Ruak me Uganda, then they translate for him. I think this was, maybe this could have been the mistake, because this one distorts. You must look for an English speaker who was born in this area but went away. When the elections come, the fellow comes back. I was born here. But I think maybe that was the problem. But still, that cannot answer the whole problem, because you remember in that parliament of '96, your fellows passed a law in parliament here that even the LOC3 chairperson must be A level. I rejected that bill. You remember, I returned it. I rejected it. I said, no, this is too much. So, up to LOC3, there are no educational qualifications. So therefore, the question is why, what you need to answer is why is it that the people who are elected, forget about the other MPs, those MPs are mainly returnees. They are mainly returnees. The ones who are born here, went away, and when a job came, they came back to look for a job. Those are the members of parliament, and the LOC5s. But what I cannot explain is why the LOC3, who is from the people, doesn't care about his people, and yet is elected by them. And they are cheating his people, they are stealing their money, and the money is either part of the stealing or is not doing anything. You should answer that. What is the disconnection? The LOC3 is elected by the people directly, all of them. And there's no educational qualification there. There's no distortion. You can elect somebody who speaks only Kumam, and he will come and Kumamamize those people there. So, what is the problem? Why can't the LOC1, why should people in his village suffer when he's there? You help me answer that disconnection. What is the problem? So, that's and not only did we do that, this democratization was especially for anti-corruption, because there was no other reason. Because if it was administration, we already had the Gombora chief. Administration running the sub-county, We had the Gombora chief, we had the Muruka chief, we had the DC. Why all these additional structures? It was because of what I knew. I'm the one actually who introduced all this. Because I had been involved in the wars in the 1960s. In the 50s, I was young. I was watching, but I was not able. I was still in the primary school and junior secondary. But in the 60s, I started, and that's why I moved this movement. Let the people elect their own voice, parallel to the structure of the government. Then, but that was not enough. So we introduced these other structures also, like this IGG, all these groups we keep creating. The Nakarema group, the what? State House health monitoring unit for health. The Auditor General was already there. That one is an old institution. Then I gave you what in 1989, I wrote a booklet which I gave the army. Corruption is really for three reasons. The first reason is ideological. Because corruption is mainly to get wealth. People want to get wealth without working. So in that booklet, which I wrote in 1989 for the army, I was able to trace the history of wealth in the human race. The human race has been here for 4.5 million years. You who are educated, you can trace, see how wealth was created. Wealth over all those years. How it was created and sustained. Of course, some of the wealth, even even the people we call wealth now, some of them got wealth in very bad ways. Slave traders are now very big people. They are the richest in the world, those who are selling slaves. You remember there was a black movement recently in England, actually last year but one, where in the city of Bristol in the UK, where a statue of a slave trader was knocked down by the black people last year. He was in the city of Bristol as a very prominent person. I've forgotten his name. His statue was there and the people pulled it down. So some of the wealth, even especially in the West, is wealth of evil from crime, from the slave trade. But there are examples of wealth which is clean. If you got countries like Sweden, Norway, they are very rich countries. But there is no history of slavery there, or of stealing other people's resources or killing people. So, the NRM people working with you people should show you, like China now. China is coming up as a very rich country. China never colonized anybody. you can trace how the Chinese have been building their wealth in the last 500 years after they were victims. So while there are bad examples of wealth from stealing, there are also examples of wealth from honest work in the world. So here the NRM, I wrote that booklet in 1989, gave it to the army. So because I could see the army people also were beginning to forget our mission. And that's why I told them this is how the country should be built. You should take interest. So you should take interest in that. The ideology of how you can create wealth, personal wealth, group wealth, national wealth, without stealing. This one you should sort out so that people know what to do. What to do. Not only what to avoid, but also what to do. Because people are stuck. I think sometimes the railways also add some confusion, because some of them talk of miracle wealth. You go in the church, you pray the whole night, you will be wealthy. You know, I was part of the Scripture Union movement in the 1960s until I walked out tactically. I went on the side. But at that time I was fighting with my people in Northern Korea, some of whom were saying, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor harvest, but God feeds them. It is in the Bible. It is a portion of the Bible. I said, but you are not birds of the air. I was also some sort of a small theologian. I said, you fellows, you are not birds. I don't know what Jesus was saying there. But me, I refused to accept that, because I told them that you are not birds of the air, because you are created on Saturday, after the birds had been created. And you are told, establish dominion over creation. So I refused that line of the religious, the one of miracle. Instead, I used to quote the story of the talents, the parable of the talents. The people who are given the talents, and then some multiplied them, and their master was happy with them. Others did not, and their master was not happy. I decided to emphasize that. Use your talents to create wealth. So this is the first issue. I have not had time to meet this new team of IGG, but it's good you have invited me. I'm now telling all of you. Ideology of how to healthily create wealth. Because that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem. Then you can add on other points, lifestyle, how you luxury, those who like values. You can add values, but you must resolve the issue and help to preach one message, please. This is how you create wealth in a clean way. And then the culture of production, because you see, some of the problem, the people who go for corruption, some of them don't know, they don't have the culture of working. They want wealth, but they don't know how to work. This is where some of us were lucky, because we grew up in wealth creation. I owe nothing to nobody. There's nobody I care about if you try to play around with it, because I owe nothing to you, not even to the government, except peace. If the government brings peace, that's what I need. So you must help people to have the culture of work, to continue to preach that. This should be the NRM doing that, of course, but even you, the agencies, you can do it. The sectors of wealth are there, they are well known. Agriculture of crops, agriculture of livestock, or a combination, mixed farming, services, fisheries. Those sectors are well known. Manufacturing, so that people get the culture of starting small and growing. You saw, you have seen how our Indians were able to build up wealth when they were here, and even when Idi Amin chased them and they went to Europe and to UK and Canada. They are now the richest people there. The people who took their free shops here are now very poor. Mafuta mingi. They were called mafuta mingi. They were given free things. You show me where they are now. The Asians who went with nothing now are the richest in UK, in Canada, and so on. They are coming back now, very rich people. So what is the problem? The culture of work. Then spirituality. I'm starting with the other one because even some of the spiritual people don't know how to work. They just talk. But they don't know how to work. Because I used to see them in the 60s. Work is discipline. Talking is easy, but work is actual discipline. It's actual sweat. You sweat. But spirituality is important because I have also seen very many examples. People who think they are very clever, they can cheat, and they will succeed. I have seen many disasters following those people. It's actually a curse. If you get that wealth through corruption, I don't want to give examples of people because it's not good. So many examples. So after the ideology, after the discipline, you must remember that there is God who is up there watching. And I can tell you, he does not bless people who do evil. Even the ones who took slaves, many of them got a lot of problems. That's how eventually we chase them from here. So with these three, ideology, culture of wealth, of wealth creation, honesty, and examples should be given. Examples. You can create many examples in Uganda here. The other day when we were here, I told you about people like the late James Murwana. I told you when we had a function here. There was one of our young fellows who died recently, Brahimu Chivirige. There are others. The one of Africana who was owning Africana here. Now, the Honorable Betty Kamia you know, I fished that girl from the opposition. And I really wooed her from the opposition because she's a very bright person. She was writing very good articles, but on the wrong side. So actually, I'm the one who, I don't normally look for opposition people. I don't care about them because many of them don't have any value addition. But for Betty, I looked for her. One time she wrote a very well written article on the kingship in Ankole. Very well written, but off the point. So I said, this clever, this is very good, this is a personal potential. That's how I got her. And now you can see I didn't make a mistake. You had her presentation, which is spot on. Because she's now saying, I don't know whether she will do it, but she's saying, that after 35 years of NRM, she will do what the others refused to do. Because you remember, the NRM empowered the people to speak for themselves. You elect your own people. The LOC ones, all those people, the structures. But it seems these agencies don't contact them, because if they contacted them, then they would get the facts. Because they are the victims, because that's what Betty Kamia said now here. Say, if you want to know what the problem is, contact the victim of corruption. And who is the victim of corruption? It is the villagers. Either directly talking with them or through their leaders. What I cannot understand is why the leaders of the villagers would not speak for them. What is the problem? Why do they forget their people? Or the LC3 chairperson, why does he not speak for his people? That one you can find out. Now, if for some reason the people who get elected forget their people, then talk directly with the people, because it is the same principle. It is the same principle of, because that's what NRM wanted the victims to speak for themselves. That's why we said, you elect your own people. There is a Gombora chief there, we know him, but no, you elect your own people. LC3 is the same. Now, what is the problem? Why should there be corruption all over the place? And these people are there, elected by the victims, but the victims somehow they don't speak for the victims. What is the problem? But now Betty is now saying, no, she's going to work with the victims directly. Now, the lifestyle audit is good, but be careful, because we are still lucky that our corrupt people are corrupt here. They steal the money, they put it there. You see a five-star hotel from corruption. Now, if you only concentrate on the lifestyle, then they will take the money out. And you'll have no evidence here. It will be another struggle. But you can look at it, lifestyle, yes. But I would like to add, maybe also, what is the problem? Because the money they are stealing is mainly government money. It's not, if you steal my cow, it's a problem for you. I follow you. The corrupt people may try to interfere with me, but I will follow my cow. So the money which is stolen and nobody follows is mainly government money. But this government money, we know where it is coming from. And we know how much each year. So much money is spent on the roads. Which roads? Where are they? So I think the IGG should, okay, there is the Auditor General, but the Auditor General sometimes may be infiltrated also. May be infiltrated by people who cook the audit reports and bring false reports. But the IGG can select, as we have selected some of the big money ministries, and they check. 1 trillion was put on the roads. Where are the roads? But in order to correctly know whether, first, are the roads there? And if the roads are there, are they the right quality? And at the right price? You can cross-check, because you know how much and what was it for. So what happened? Even the ministry, this Ministry of Monitoring in the President's office, that ministry of Peter Ogwang, it can do a lot of work. It can do a lot of work, because you know how much money was given out. So where did it go? So apart from the lifestyle, you add that one, because those are known facts. So much money to this sector. What is the average cost of a road per kilometer? That's known. The cost of constructing a tarmac road per kilometer. So much. Now, why is it? Why did you build only 1 road instead of 2? Because where did the other money go? So lifestyle, you add also the performance audit. Not paper audit, but results-oriented audit. This method of working with the victims has worked for the NRA. The NRA became very popular with the people because of this method, because we used it. Because the old armies used to violate people's rights, used to kill people, so on. But in the NRA, we always ask the people, have our soldiers disturbed you here in this village? yes or no. If yes, we look for the one who did it. Recently, our soldiers killed villagers in Somalia, and they were tried on the spot there. Because we interacted with the people. We are even trying to organize matoput with the Somalis. Matoput is the Banyankore call it Karaba, to have blood settlement. So the NRA has used this connection with the victims. That's why, yes, there are those who make mistakes, and maybe with the new group of leaders who may not know our culture well in the NRA, but we always remind them. That culture worked very well. Where you work with the victims, you can't go wrong. You can't lose touch. Now, apart from the method of performance audit, Torami has rightly pointed out about the new technological innovations, electronic procurement. We are no longer going to allow this business of person-to-person contact. No. Conduct business through the computer, and the computer will leave the whole track there. All the interaction, all the messages, will be there. That also will definitely help. Now, after I had set up the grassroots structure, really to fight corruption, because there was no other reason. There was no other reason why you should have double government. Gomborora Chief, LC3, DC, RDC, LC5. Why? There was no need. But it was actually to fight corruption. That was the reason. Then, when I created these units, I remembered to try and recruit. We used what we call integrity hunting. We would hunt integrity. And integrity hunting, we were not just advertising and then people come, the one who runs fast is the one who, let's hunt people with integrity. And actually, I used quite a bit. I'm glad the Inter-Religious Council are here. Because of my history of Scripture Union, I recruited quite a bit from those faith-based cadres. The first one was Stephen Akabwai. I had been with him in the Scripture Union at Ntare. He was 2 years ahead of me. And I had never seen him since 1965. So when I came in the government and we were looking for tax, URA, oh, there were people, this one commissioner, this commissioner. There is a man called Stephen Akabwai. Is he still alive? Oh, they didn't even know him. They went around with, hey, yes, he's alive. Where is he? He's the deputy headmaster somewhere. Then I said, you bring me Akabwai. So the Akabwai came. He had been a deputy headmaster. The shoe was like this. You know when people are not. You can see people who are not stealing. You can see them. Especially during the time of, who are not stealing during the time of Amin. So I said, Akabwai, I want you to do URA. But I don't know how URA, they will teach you. So I called URA people. You teach Akabwai how to be URA. Because collecting tax is not a big issue. Just not to be a thief, that's all. So that's how Akabwai became. Was he not commissioner? Was he not Commissioner Akabwai? Who is from URA? Huh? What was Akabwai? Come and tell us.
Your Excellency was Commissioner General.
Yes, yes. Then I continued. There are so many cadres from that background. One time there was a Catholic group of Ankole area. The one with the Archbishop Bachenga. And they came, they were talking, I said, no, I said, look, I don't want you to talk. There is a war. You bring me people to fight. They gave me some people. I put them in the URA. They were there for many years. I don't know how they performed. Nakarema is a Mlokori. So I said Nakarema now. Don't just sit here and start shouting. There is a war, you go and fight. She's there struggling, fighting. So, you should audit yourselves because I have really no problem. I'm dying to get faith-based cadres to fight this war. But I think even the faith-based cadres don't know how to link with the victims. I don't know what the problem is. They don't know how to link up with the victims. Because if you read this, the work will be very easy. It's not such a difficult job, really. Because the victims are there. What seems to be happening is that corruption is like AIDS. You know what AIDS does? It takes over your cells. As soon as we create a group, it is infiltrated and it is hijacked and taken over. Yeah. Otherwise, I cannot explain. It's really very easy to fight this corruption because the bet Kamia, Oye Kamia, as usual. Because the victims are there. So, what is the problem? The victims are there. Yeah. If the victims were far away, in Liberia or something, you would say you don't know. But the victims are here. Why don't you listen to them? I think the problem is that even when we use good cadres, they bureaucratize themselves and get reports from the Kawukumi, which has already infiltrated. That becomes the end of the. That's what Bishop Joshua already was talking about. That's why the people are now skeptical. Say, they are all the same. Because otherwise, the people are there, the victims are there. So, I think Betty can make sure this by linking the faith. There are really some faith-based people who are not corrupt. They are there. But do they know how to work with the victims? I think this may be the issue. Now, then, my political and bureaucratic class Your Lordship, Chief Justice, help me with my authority dishing food. I had picked it in the election, but I forgot. Dishing food to your, what do we call it? To dish food and you put it on the plate. Give him a microphone near here. Bring him a microphone. Bring that microphone there. Sitting like here.
Your Excellency, food is corn. Corn. Then sauce is DEC.
No, to dish out and you put on your plate, to distribute the food.
Poco corn.
Poco
is to dish out, to distribute.
I have remembered now, in the campaign I was calling it Poco Marom. Poco Marom.
Equal distribution. Equity.
Poco Marom as opposed to Poco Marach.
Poco Marom is equally or equitably.
Very good.
Then Marach is wrong distribution.
So now, thank you very much. Now, for the political, I had forgotten my law. For the political class, and that's what Bishop Reda was talking about. Why our conduct incites, like for instance, the doctors who go on the strike and say we want more money. And then you say there is no money. But if there is no money, why is that one getting so much? So we told you this, I told you this. I said, you people who are clamoring for salaries, you are going to destabilize our system. That's why I refused the salary of the president to be raised. I refused. Because how will you say, tighten your belt when you are loosening yours? You will know use rukhura. Then you tell others to tighten the belt. So here, we had got a good solution. 1996, but people don't listen. People don't listen. The solution was, there's what they call compression ratio. Compression ratio. In 1996, we appointed a committee which looked around the whole world. And the question was, where there is good governance, how much more does the highest paid get compared to the lowest paid in the public service? And that is what they call compression ratio. And we looked around the whole world, and we found that the best compression ratio was in some countries, I think Sweden or something like that, and it was a ratio of 1 to 10, which means that if the highest is getting 10 million, the lowest must get 1 million. With such a compression ratio, you can manage things. But if you have got a compression ratio of 1,000 to 1, then you incite trouble. And it's good that Bishop Urera has talked about. Of course, me, I refuse it completely, that I will never be part of this blindness to, as long as I'm in charge here for the president. So therefore, that issue should now be sorted out. We should resolve that enough is enough, as the girl was saying, the girl from Bordeaux, that this Poko Marach must stop. We must go for Poko Marom only. Engabula enungi. Engabula enungi. But all these are happening. You are now fighting over money because I have generated money for you. That's why you are fighting. Who will get more money? Who will steal more? Because we have generated money. NRM has generated money for you. How? Three things. Number one, the army. The army, the NRA, UPDF has guaranteed security here in Uganda. So the thieves can steal, the ones who are Poko Marach can do, but there is peace. There is peace. Secondly, we have developed infrastructure. Although there are those who steal, who do this, but still the infrastructure somehow continue improving. The roads, the electricity, education of the children goes on, the schools, the health centers are built. They still, yes, but things still move. And thirdly, the private sector. The private sector keeps coming. Keeps coming, why? Because of the peace, because of the infrastructure, but also because of the correct policies, policies of pro-private sector policies. And because of that, the economy is growing. So there's more money. So all this money you are quarreling over is money developed by, created by the NRM. The economy has grown. It's now bigger. It is more than 40 billion now. It used to be $1 billion. But there's no reason why we should not do things properly now. There's no reason why we should go on with the corruption, with the tension, with what? No. And the economy will grow even much faster if we did not have those distractions. So therefore, on the narrow issue of corruption, really this is very easy to deal with. If the anti-corruption people could deal with the victims, finish, there's nothing much. Now, that would leave us only with one issue, the issue of Ladit, Chief Justice, and his group. Because if the victims report the thief and the corruption agencies, like, which is what Bet Kami was talking about, and then you come, and then we need there we can have a dialogue also with the CJ and the courts once we have clearly refined our strategy of relying on the victims to wage the war. You, the people we select on integrity hunting basis. You deal with the victims. Then if we found a problem on the side of the courts, then we shall discuss with the CJ, how do we handle this? Because he's here, and he's not in London, he's here with us. And we can discuss and see how to move. So therefore, for me, I don't think this is really a big issue. The issue is ourselves. You have not used Number one, I want to know why the LC1, who are elected by the people, but I think those are ignored. I don't think anybody consults even those. I don't think anybody consults them. The more interest, the better person I want to find out is why the LC3 chairperson, who is elected by the people, would have things going wrong in his area and he just keeps quiet. And yet he's paid. He's not powerless like the LC1. And then the LC5. Those are the two people. The MP, that one, many of them are returnees. Those ones I wouldn't. If he's a good MP, he can be close with the people, but many of them, but the other ones, the other two. So therefore, this is a subject I know very well, and I knew long ago, in the 1950s, when I was watching those vets, the health staff, like for instance, you see, like my father, Amos Kaguta was somebody, he only read the Iteka. There was a Church of Uganda alphabet booklet. A, E, I, O, U, Y, Ya, Ba, Pa, Fa, Ma, Da, Ta, Ra, Hara, Na, Za, Sa, Ga, Ha. That was the Nyankore alphabet, produced by the Church of Uganda. That's the one Kaguta read. And my mother, Esther, read. But Kaguta had syringes, a bomber of injecting the cows in his house, in his traditional house, when he was in the traditional houses. He had all the veterinary drugs. There was one veterinary drug known as anticide. Banyankore were calling it kachungwa because it looked like orange juice. There was the one from Rwanda. You can imagine, cross-border. The one cross-border, I think it was Berener or something. The Banyankore were calling it Kasai because it was red like blood. Then we had the other one, the whitish one, Prosort. Banyankore were calling it Matunda like skimmed milk. Kaguta had all these drugs. Can you imagine? Amos Kaguta, the one who did not go to school, he had all these drugs in his house. Buying them from whom? The veterinary people. This business of the veterinary not caring about people's cows, the people having to care for the cows themselves, buying, is from the 1940s, 1950s. There's a boy in Parliament, the boy called, this one who talks a lot, Theodore Sechkubo. That honorable. His father, Sam Mwagarwa, used to go in all these cattle markets injecting people with penicillin. He was a bush doctor, Sam Mwagarwa. Penicillin from, where do you get penicillin from? It must have been from government stores. So, this is an old war, and the NRM from the beginning gave you a solution, but you should audit for me why this grassroots structure either doesn't work or is not used. Which of the two? either doesn't work or is not used, the grassroots, because this is the structure of the victims, which is what Beth has talked about. I think you have made my day today. Thank you very much. The Wanyankore say, that if you keep walking, the legs one day will reward you. So by keeping walking, I think now I have landed on Betty. She may help me. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, at this juncture, I would like to request you to go and launch the National Lifestyle Audit Campaign. Your Excellency, you'll be accompanied by the Minister of State for Ethics and Integrity, the IGG, and the deputies. The IGG and the two deputy IGGs. The Minister of Ethics, and the Minister of State for Ethics and Integrity, the IGG, and the two deputy IGGs. And after that, we shall have a photo moment with His Excellency.
Share the report of his unit. He has just forgotten. The reports are here. Just remind him that to authorize the sharing. Just to authorize it.
Okay.
Because they actually just to give them to us. Yes. Isn't it the other one? Madam. Isn't it the other one? Isn't it the other one? I give the other one there. On his side. Maybe. But he has forgotten. He knows about it. So when you don't share them, just
our distinguished guests, Your Excellency the Vice President, our distinguished guests, after the launch of the campaign, of the audit campaign, after the launch of the National Lifestyle Audit Campaign, there will be a photo moment with His Excellency the President in two groups. The first group that will take a photo with His Excellency the President will be composed of the Minister of Ethics and Integrity, the Inspector General of Government, and the deputies. Then, Your Excellency, I was reminded that you had not authorized the sharing of the report that was given out. But now it is time for the launch of the National Lifestyle Audit Campaign. Then after that, Your Excellency, we request you to have a photo moment with the Minister of Ethics and Integrity, the Minister of State for Ethics and Integrity, the Inspector General of Government, and the 2 deputies. And then after that, we shall have another photograph with Her Excellency, the Vice President, His Lordship, the Chief Justice, the heads of the anti-corruption agencies, that is the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Auditor General. Please, maybe I would like you, as I read you, to proceed and stand with His Excellency, the President. Then we shall have the Executive Director, Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Assets Authority, then the head of the Anti-Corruption Unit, State House, the Criminal Investigations Directorate, Director CID, the Internal Security Organization, the Director General, then the Executive Director, Financial Intelligence Authority, then the Chairperson, the Leadership Code Tribunal. Your Excellency, we thank you. Now I think we can have the anthems, the East African Community Anthem, and then Your Excellency, we thank you so much for coming and participating with us in this and presiding over this function. May the Lord bless you. And I thank all who have come. Your Excellency, the Vice President, thank you for coming. I'd like to thank His Lordship, the Chief Justice, all our distinguished guests. Thank you for gracing this occasion. And I'm very sure now from here, time for action. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the anti-corruption agencies here with us. Thank you, the members of the diplomatic corps. Thank you. Thank you, honorable ministers of state. Thank you. I'd like to thank you all, the serving chiefs,